Have you ever stepped outside in December, taken one look at your garden, and assumed the growing season has come to a complete stop? The beds look barren, the soil feels icy and lifeless, and every part of the landscape seems to whisper, "Come back in spring." But the reality is far more surprising. December is not the end of the gardening cycle, and it's the quiet, hidden beginning of next year's most vigorous, high-performing garden. Plants sown in December sprout far earlier, flower sooner, and grow more robustly than seeds started later in the season. Today, you're going to discover 9 varieties that must be planted in December if you want a garden that surges ahead of everyone else's long before spring even arrives. These are plants built for cold, species that rely on winter's challenges, and seeds that reward you precisely because you start when others are still waiting. Let's get started and turn December into the true launch of your gardening year. 1. Delphinium, the towering jewel of winter. Sowing delphinium stands among the most breathtaking perennial flowers you can grow. Known for its statuesque flower spikes, this plant produces tall, commanding columns of blossoms that can easily reach 3 to 6 feet, sometimes surpassing that in ideal conditions. Each spike carries dense clusters of vibrant flowers and shades, ranging from intense sapphire blue and velvety indigo to soft tones of pale lavender, blush pink, and crisp white. The richness of the colors is extraordinary. Many gardeners say that delphiniums glow in the sunlight like panels of luminous stained glass. But its beauty isn't the only impressive thing about this plant. Delphinium is perfectly adapted to winter sowing, making December one of the best times to begin growing it. These seeds require a period of cold stratification, weeks of exposure to low temperatures, to break dormancy and initiate the chemical processes needed for successful germination. This built-in mechanism prevents the seeds from sprouting too early during warm autumn spells, only to be damaged by winter frost. By sowing delphinium seeds outdoors in December, whether directly in the garden or using winter sowing containers, you're recreating the precise natural cycle the plant has evolved to follow. Winter provides everything delphinium needs: extended darkness, consistent moisture, and the cycles of freezing and thawing that soften the seed coat and prepare the embryo to germinate. As a result, the seedlings emerge in spring stronger, more compact, sturdier in the stem, and far more heat-tolerant than those started indoors. Delphinium thrives in fertile, well-draining soil, rich in organic matter. It appreciates full sun in cooler climates and benefits from partial shade in hotter locations. This is a plant that loves nutrition. Compost, organic amendments, and deep mulching dramatically improve its performance. Delphinium grows most vigorously in cool conditions, thriving in early spring and autumn while slowing down significantly when temperatures exceed 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 degrees Celsius. This is another reason winter sowing is so effective. The timing naturally aligns the plant with its preferred growing season. Once growth begins in spring, the plant develops lush, deeply lobed leaves and sends up thick stems that will soon carry multiple flower spikes. With proper feeding and watering, these spikes can grow so tall and heavy that they require support. Many gardeners use bamboo stakes, metal rings, or decorative structures to prevent the stems from bending or breaking in wind or rain. After the initial flush of blooms in early summer, cutting the plant back encourages a second wave of flowers later in the season. Delphinium is also a fantastic pollinator plant. Bumblebees, honeybees, butterflies, and even hummingbirds love its nectar-rich blooms. Rather than being purely ornamental, the plant functions as an important contributor to your garden's ecological health. In terms of maintenance, delphinium appreciates deep, consistent watering, but dislikes saturated soil. A thick layer of mulch helps protect the root system and maintain soil temperature. In cold climates, the plant reliably survives winter and returns stronger each year. In mild regions, some varieties can remain semi-evergreen. One essential reminder: delphinium seedlings are slow to start. Gardeners often assume nothing is happening, but the seeds simply require patience. Winter sowing removes the guesswork and allows nature to handle the entire stratification process. Once they sprout, though, they grow rapidly and reward you with an incredible show. Delphinium is a plant that repays patience with spectacular beauty, and starting it in December is the most dependable way to succeed. 2. Poppies, flowers that require. Winter to awaken poppies are legendary not only for their beauty, but also for their very specific germination requirements. Their seeds are tiny, nearly dust-like, and each one is protected by a tough outer coating designed to survive harsh winter conditions. In nature, poppy seeds fall in late autumn, remain on the soil surface through freezing winter months, and only sprout after prolonged exposure to cold. This is exactly why so many spring sowings fail. Without extended cold, consistent moisture, and light exposure, the seeds simply refuse to wake up. They need chill but not warmth, moisture but not saturation, brightness but not burial. And these conditions align perfectly with December. When you sow poppy seeds in December, sprinkling them across open ground, over frozen soil, or pressing them lightly into the surface of pots, you create the exact circumstances required for germination. Winter naturally presses the seeds into the ground through snow, rain, and frost heaving. Freeze-thaw cycles create tiny cracks and pockets in the soil where seeds settle and rest. Cold temperatures slowly weaken the seed coat, and the alternating conditions signal the embryos to prepare for spring. Because poppy seeds require light to germinate, winter sowing leaves them perfectly positioned, exposed to light, but protected by nature's movements. By early spring, as soon as temperatures begin to warm, poppies are among the very first flowers to appear. Their young foliage is unmistakable, soft, slightly fuzzy, and colored a unique bluish green. These seedlings can handle frost without issue, giving them a strong head start before many other plants even begin growing. By late spring or early summer, your garden transforms. Poppies bloom in breathtaking, almost ethereal displays. Their petals are thin and delicate like crepe paper, glowing when sunlight travels through them. The color palette is extraordinary. Fiery reds, pure whites, coral shades, hot pinks, warm oranges, lavender tones, deep purples, and dramatic varieties with black centers. Poppies sown in December don't just bloom earlier, they bloom more abundantly. They develop taller stems, more robust foliage, and significantly larger flowers. The plants also produce more seed pods, allowing you to collect seeds or let the plants reseed naturally, often creating self-sustaining drifts that return every year with minimal effort. Pollinators adore poppies. Bees gather huge amounts of pollen from the open centers, turning your garden into a vibrant, buzzing habitat full of energy and movement. If you want effortless beauty, sweeping color, and blooms that dance like silk in the wind, December sowing is the key. It transforms a pinch of tiny seeds into a breathtaking display that feels almost enchanted. 3. Pansy and viola. Pansies and violas are some of the most recognizable cool weather flowers on the planet. Their adorable faces, impressive durability in cold climates, and remarkable ability to bloom during temperatures that bring most other plants to a halt make them true winter champions. Although they appear soft, delicate, and ornamental, these flowers are astonishingly hardy. They don't merely tolerate frost, they flourish in it. It's not unusual to see them blooming even when lightly encased in ice or sprinkled with snow. This incredible resilience is exactly why sowing them in December works so flawlessly. Their seeds prefer cool soil and germinate best after long exposure to winter conditions. Repeated freeze-thaw cycles, steady moisture from condensation, and the natural rhythm of cold nights and slightly warmer days. All these factors combine to trigger vigorous germination as soon as early spring arrives. Many gardeners are surprised to learn that pansy and viola seeds often struggle when started indoors. The indoor environment tends to be too warm, the air too dry, and the lighting insufficient. This results in weak, stretched, and fragile seedlings. Winter sowing eliminates these issues automatically. The seeds remain dormant throughout the deep winter months and sprout only when the timing is perfect, producing strong, compact seedlings far more suited to outdoor life than anything grown under lights indoors. Once they germinate, pansies and violas form dense carpets of blooms, either medium-sized flowers in the case of pansies or smaller, prolific blossoms in the case of violas. Pansies produce larger flowers with dramatic markings that resemble expressive faces, while violas create smaller blooms but in far greater quantities. Violas also perform better in warmer conditions and often continue flowering into early summer. Both types release a subtle, sweet fragrance that becomes especially noticeable during cool mornings and evenings. One of the most exceptional traits of pansies and violas is their extraordinarily early blooming. They are frequently among the very first flowers to open in spring, sometimes flowering while frost still covers the ground. Their ability to bloom in cold temperatures makes them priceless for gardeners seeking early season color. In many regions, pansies can bloom throughout winter, into early spring, well into late spring, and even into the autumn months if you deadhead them consistently. Although they are not the top nectar plants of high summer, they play a surprisingly important role for early season pollinators. At a time when food sources are scarce, pansies and violas provide much needed nectar and pollen for bees, hoverflies, and other beneficial insects emerging from winter dormancy. Their early season support helps jumpstart the ecosystem long before other flowers appear. They are also very easy to grow. These plants prefer well-drained soil, moderate moisture levels, and full sun in cooler regions. In warmer locations, they appreciate light afternoon shade. Removing spent blooms encourages them to produce even more flowers. A layer of mulch around the base helps keep the soil cool and moist while suppressing weeds. In mild climates, pansies can continue blooming nearly year-round. In cold climates, winter-sown seedlings remain hardy and then burst into bloom as temperatures begin to rise. Pansies and violas adapt effortlessly to nearly any planting arrangement. Garden beds, borders, porch containers, window boxes, hanging baskets, rock gardens, or even vertical planters. Their versatility makes them beloved by both beginners and advanced gardeners alike. Sowing them in December allows you to produce large, lush clusters of these charming flowers for a fraction of what nursery-grown plants cost in spring. Despite their delicate appearance, these plants deliver extraordinary returns. Long-lasting blooms, rich colors, winter hardiness, and cheerful displays during the dreariest months of the year. By sowing them in December, you align with their natural growth cycle, and nature rewards you with one of the earliest, brightest, and most dependable floral shows in your garden. 4. Milkweed, the irreplaceable monarch butterfly plant. Milkweed is easily one of the most important plants you can sow in December, not only for your own garden, but for the survival of an entire species. In nature, milkweed seeds fall from their pods in late fall and lie on the soil surface throughout the winter months, exposed to cold, snow, and constant moisture. This extended chilling period, known as cold stratification, is absolutely critical for the seeds to awaken in spring. Without it, they often refuse to sprout. Gardeners who try to start milkweed indoors without first providing cold treatment are often shocked by how low the germination rate is. But when the seeds are left outside from December through February, the cold naturally prepares them, leading to dramatically improved germination and stronger seedlings. Milkweed is the cornerstone of monarch butterfly survival. It is the only plant where monarch butterflies lay their eggs, and it is the exclusive food source for monarch caterpillars. Without milkweed, monarchs cannot reproduce. As natural milkweed habitats decline, home gardeners play an increasingly crucial role in helping monarch populations recover. By sowing milkweed in December, you're not just planting flowers, you're restoring habitat, giving monarchs a safe place to reproduce and feed when they arrive in spring. Winter-sown milkweed emerges earlier and more vigorously, ensuring the plants are fully grown and ready at the exact time monarchs begin migrating through your region. But monarchs are not the only beneficiaries. Milkweed creates an entire mini ecosystem in your garden. Bees of every size visit its intricate star-shaped flowers. Beneficial insects such as ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies, and parasitic wasps come in search of nectar and help control harmful pests naturally. Winter-sown milkweed also develops thicker stems and more substantial root systems, making the plants more resilient to weather extremes like drought, heat waves, and heavy winds. By midsummer, a milkweed patch becomes a vibrant sanctuary filled with life, fluttering butterflies, buzzing bees, and the gentle movement of tall stems in the breeze. If you want a garden that feels alive, meaningful, and ecologically connected, December is the ideal time to sow milkweed. You'll gain beauty, pollinator activity, and the satisfaction of knowing you're directly supporting one of the world's most iconic and threatened butterfly species. 5. Yarrow, the ancient medicinal, ultra-tough perennial. Yarrow is one of the oldest healing plants known worldwide and one of the toughest perennials any gardener can grow. Its seeds require light exposure during germination, along with cool temperatures and steady moisture, conditions that are surprisingly tricky to reproduce indoors. But December provides them naturally. When you scatter yarrow seeds on the soil surface during winter, nature creates the perfect environment. The cold prevents premature sprouting. Winter precipitation keeps the soil slightly moist, and increasing daylight in early spring signals the seeds to germinate right on schedule. Plants grown from winter sowing develop stronger, deeper root systems than those sown later in spring. These roots allow yarrow to handle drought better than nearly any other perennial. Once established, yarrow can survive dry spells that would destroy more fragile plants. It grows successfully in poor, sandy, rocky, or clay-heavy soil, thriving even in tough, neglected spots where little else survives. Once it settles in, it becomes almost indestructible. But yarrow's appeal goes far beyond toughness. It has been valued for its medicinal uses for thousands of years. Traditionally, it has been used in teas, poultices, tinctures, and herbal remedies due to its antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and wound-healing properties. When sown in December, first-year plants typically grow large enough to harvest by late summer or fall, allowing you to start your own herbal collection sooner. In the garden, yarrow is just as beneficial. Its flat-topped flower clusters act like miniature landing platforms for pollinators. Ladybugs and lacewings feed on its nectar, and both species help control aphids. Hoverflies also visit the flowers and lay eggs nearby, producing larvae that consume pests. Bees, both native and honeybees, flock to yarrow because of its long-lasting, reliable nectar supply throughout the warm months. With its delicate fern-like foliage, impressive resilience, medicinal value, and ability to attract helpful insects, yarrow becomes a foundational plant in low-maintenance, eco-friendly gardens. When sown in December, your yarrow begins life with a strong foundation, preparing it to thrive in harsh weather and reward you with beauty and usefulness for many years. 6. Lupin, the seed that refuses to sprout. Unless it's frozen first. Lupin is one of the most striking plants you can grow, instantly recognized by its tall, majestic flower towers and its beautifully shaped palmate foliage that fans out like a star. Yet despite its beauty, lupin is surprisingly misunderstood, especially when it comes to germination. Its seeds aren't delicate at all, they're more like tiny armored shells. The seed coat is incredibly dense and durable, designed by nature to resist moisture. If water can't penetrate that outer layer, the seed simply stays sleeping, refusing to sprout no matter how good the soil or how perfect the conditions might seem. Gardeners often try to force the seed awake by soaking it, scratching it with sandpaper, or nicking the seed coat with a blade to break through the barrier. Sometimes these methods work, but often they don't. The results can be unpredictable and frustrating. Winter sowing, however, solves the problem in the most effortless, natural way possible. When lupine seeds are exposed to freezing temperatures, the seed coat expands and contracts repeatedly as the weather shifts. Over the course of winter, this microscopic movement creates fine fractures in the shell. These tiny cracks finally give moisture a way in. Once water reaches the embryo inside, the seed begins its countdown to spring germination, exactly when nature intended. Winter-sown lupines produce seedlings that are noticeably stronger, sturdier, and more deeply rooted than those started indoors. Their roots immediately dive into the cold soil, forming a powerful taproot. This deep root system gives the plant impressive resilience, allowing it to withstand heat waves, dry spells, and nutrient-poor soil with remarkable ease. Because lupines are nitrogen fixers, they also enrich the soil around them, helping future plants grow even better. A patch of lupines planted in December can transform an ordinary space into a lush, self-sustaining corner of the garden. And then there are the blooms, towering columns of tightly clustered, pea-like flowers that look almost sculptural. Few plants offer this kind of dramatic vertical display. Lupines bloom in a spectacular range of colors: rich purples, snowy whites, soft creams, vivid reds, sunny yellows, rose tones, and even multicolored varieties with blended or speckled petals. These floral spires draw pollinators from every direction. Hummingbirds dart from bloom to bloom. Bees burrow deep inside each individual flower. Butterflies hover gracefully around the spikes, feeding on the abundant nectar. Lupin doesn't just attract pollinators, it practically summons them. By sowing lupine seeds in December, you give them the winter exposure they absolutely need. This leads to earlier growth, sturdier stems, fuller flower spikes, and far more reliable blooming. When started in sync with their natural rhythm, lupines can live for many years, especially if you choose varieties well suited to your region's climate. If your dream garden includes the classic cottage garden look, full of height, movement, rich color, and a slightly wild elegance, then lupine is essential. And winter sowing isn't just helpful for this plant, it's the secret. The cold does the hard work for you, preparing each seed for a vigorous, healthy start that will reward you with breathtaking blooms year after year.